Hello all, very good evening. Online students, am I audible? Okay, so in last class we started with kinship and छोटे-छोटे टॉपिक्स बचे हुए हैं kinship के, and that will be the end of social cultural anthropology, and we'll start with linguistic anthropology. आप लोगों को kinship और family के नोट्स नहीं दिए ना शायद मैंने? ओके, तो हाँ, उसके बाद सोशल कल्चरल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी खत्म हो रहा है, तो एक टेस्ट। हाँ क्या? मीन्स आप बताओ कब कंफर्टेबल हो? अरे इसमें हँसने की क्या बात है यार? व्हेन आर यू गाइस कंफर्टेबल? नहीं तो फिर मैं डेट डिसाइड करता हूँ। आफ्टर 28th। आज 4 अरे उतने में तो पेपर 2 खत्म होने के 9 बजे आ जाएगा। हाँ? सर नेक्स्ट मंथ। भाई सीधा मेन ही लिख देना जाके। हाँ, 21। अरे अरे 2 हफ्ते काफ़ी है यार। कितना मतलब 5 सब यूनिट है, यूनिट 2 ही है बस। हाँ, प्रीवियस वाला तो मतलब ऑटोमेटिकली आएगा ना, मतलब वो तो मतलब अनसेट है। हाँ? सब आएगा। अब तुम लोग डिसाइड कर लो और मेरे को डेट एक लिख के भेज देना। 28 ठीक है फिर। अरे मतलब ऐसे कैसे? शर्म करो, मतलब तीसरी बार कर रहे हैं। तो पहले पीछे से करो ना, फिर आगे तक देख लेंगे। हाँ, तो 28 इज डन, पूरा सोशल कल्चरल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, एंड उसी एक दिन पेपर होगा, कोई एक्सक्यूज नहीं, जिसने देना उसी दिन देना है। 28 ओके। तो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद, अरे पेपर बहुत इजी हो गया यार, बाकी थ्योरी से बात सोशल कल्चर कितना इजी था। हाँ हाँ, बाकी बातें बाद में। So kinship behavior, or they are anthropologically called as usages. Okay, so there are certain behaviors associated with certain specific type of kinship relations, and these behaviors, as we know, we have read in structure functionalism that these behaviors are necessary to maintain a particular type of structure. Okay, so some behaviors we have already read, that is avoidance and joking relation. Remember structure functionalism, Red Cliff Brown? I hope you remember. So the first one is, that is avoidance. So in avoidance, we know that the two kins would tend to avoid, or two kins would tend to kind of refrain from having any face-to-face contact with each other, or they would try to refrain from having any kind of communications with each other, be it in the form of eye contact, so verbal or non-verbal communication, कोई भी नहीं होगा. Okay, that is what is called as avoidance. This usually happens among the kins where there is a greater chance of tension between kin groups, and the relationship is, since relationship is very much delicate, so they tend to avoid each other in order to make sure that there is no conflict that arises, or that would no strain in the relationship that would come up. Okay, that's why they avoid each other. Red Cliff Brown suggested that this kind of avoidance will happen between kins of different generations, and the reason for this is to maintain the existing social structure, as per Red Cliff Brown. But Tyler had a different explanation for it. He suggested that this avoidance relationship is a kind of remnant of matrilineal society or matrilineal society. So here in matrilineal society, you'll see that husband used to leave his house and live in the place of, or live at the residence of his wife. So in that case, there was a kind of restrictions that were imposed on the husbands, because he was considered as an outsider. So the son-in-law basically was not seen as a part of the female's family, and that's why there was a kind of restriction that was imposed on him, that kind of limited the interaction between son-in-law and the mother-in-law. Okay, and that is something that is continuing in the present time also. But then there is a scholar, Lowy, who suggests the opposite. He says that woman is an outsider who comes with a different set of values in the house. Okay, after marriage, woman is the one who was not a part of the society, that is the husband's place, and she is coming from a society that has a different set of values. Now there is a greater chance that the husband will definitely get corrupted because of this, because of coming in contact with the woman. Corrupted means that husband will get influenced by the values of the women. But in order to make sure that other family members do not get influenced by the value that is carried by the woman who is of the outer society, there are restrictions that are imposed on women in order, with respect to the interaction that she will be making with her in-laws. So that's why woman has to have ghungat in front of any other person who is elder than her. So be it the elder brother of the husband, or the father-in-law or mother-in-law. So just to make sure that they are not influenced by the different set of values that is carried by the woman into the house. Means Lowy was also a structure functionist, and he is trying to explain this with a different perspective, but a structure functionist one. That is, to maintain the existing social structure, there is a set of shared value system. And if that set of shared value system is kind of disturbed, then the structure will get collapsed. So in order to make sure that does not happen, so anybody who is coming from the outside group or having a different set of values, there has to be minimal contact of that person with the other family members, so that the existing value system are retained. अब husband को नहीं बता सकते, but बाकी लोगों को बताएंगे. Okay, this is the idea of Lowy. Just like this. According to Tyler, avoidance was a behavior that came from matrilineal societies. Son-in-law went to live with wives, and he was obliged to be in a restricted relation, with their mother-in-law, who represented matriarchal family. Son-in-laws found themselves as strangers. And in subservient position. Okay, does Tyler relates son-in-law and mother-in-law avoidance to matrilocal residence? Okay. Next, Brown. According to Brown, there are certain kinship relations. According to Brown, there are certain kinship relations who have greater possibility of conflict and cooperation. In order to maintain this existing structure, avoidance is usually practiced between kins of different generations. And third, R. Lowy. A daughter-in-law is seen as an individual. With alien set of values. As a rule, her husband is bound to be influenced. By her. But rest of the family must be saved. Hence avoidance. The second is joking relation. So this joking relation also we have read that this indicates wherever there is a tension and that is in between the kins of same generation, then in order to diffuse the tension, the kins must participate into a joking relation. And sometimes this joking relationship is more obscene, or it's more sexual intent or sexual content will be there in the jokes that are made. This also shows that the people engaging into joking relations are potential mates. Okay, so if like Bhabhi and Devar, so the name Devar basically means the potential second person, and that was prevalent when the mortality of male in the society was very high. In that case, the Devar who used to be the one who will be the second probable mate after the death of the husband, and that's why and in several cultures and societies these kind of relationships are taken in this tone only. Okay, and that is very common in UP, Bihar and these areas wherein this Bhabhi Devar relationship are represented in some kind of folklore, folk songs, and they are shown to be flirtatious in nature. So wherever these kind of relationship means this joking relationship is there, generally the it represents a potential mates. So in societies that follow cross cousin marriages, in those societies also the cross cousin also exchange into joking relationship. Okay, while in societies where cross cousin marriages is considered to be incest, or cousin marriages are considered to be incest, the relationship between the cousins are sincere and serious. They will never engage into a joking relationship. Or joking, when I'm saying that it automatically conveys the flirtatious relationship. So that joking relationship definitely will be between the potential mates. Okay, just write this. Joking relationship indicate equality, mutual reciprocity, and potential sexual relation. In societies where cross cousin marriages are allowed, cross cousins engage in joking relationship. Okay, but in certain cases you will find that this joking relationship is not mutual. So at that case, joking relationship will be used as a social control. Okay, like sarcasm. So usko humiliate kar rahe hain baar by making some kind of jokes that humiliates that person. So in that case, that person who is trying to deviate the norms of kinship or kinship rules ko deviate karne ki koshish kar raha hai, that person will be kind of, that deviance must be realized to him through this joking relationship by constantly humiliating that person by making jokes on him. So that's right, when this relationship is not mutual, it acts as a form of social control. Kuwait. So this Kuwait is another type of kinship behavior in which usually what happens, we have discussed this also, in which the husband imitates the behavior of a pregnant wife. So he will follow all those taboos that are attached to that woman. So in that case, he will also not consume alcohol or any kind of food that is not allowed to be consumed by the woman when she is pregnant. Okay, and he will also participate equally in all the ritualistic practices and in all the activities that has to be done by the woman when she is pregnant. First. Second, when she is delivering the child, in that case also he will imitate or as if show that he is feeling the same pain or he is undergoing the same process. This is what is called as Kuwait, and this is very common in Indian societies which are matrilineal in nature. In Garos also, in Khasis also, Kuwait is common. In fact, when the society becomes egalitarian in nature, this Kuwait type of practices will be institutionalized by law. Okay, so for example, maternal leave, and then paternal leave will also be institutionalized. Not just that, you must have seen certain advertisement in which they come up with a hashtag that we are pregnant. Okay, so that is a modern form of Kuwait. We are pregnant doesn't mean the man is expecting a baby, but he will also refrain from all those activities and will cooperate with his wife and will share the burden of pregnancy with his wife. So because it has been proven that this pregnancy is the time where there are a lot of emotional ups and downs, and in that case, the woman has to be engaged, and she most of the cases may when the working woman becomes pregnant. In that case, when she has to take a leave from her house, from her work, and stay at her own place. ऐसे छुट्टी लेना is different thing, but now it's because of some other reasons she has to take a leave. In that case, she might experience emotional outburst. Why? Because such kind of thoughts, whether I'm ready for pregnancy, or whether I'm ready for motherhood, whether is it going to affect my profession and all that stuff, that might lead to emotional outbursts, and that requires somebody always to stay with her. And now in the industrial society, when the bond with the larger family has been broken down, in that case, usually this pregnancy becomes a time of isolation of the woman. That was not the case in joint families. Okay, so even if the husband is going out for the work, in that case, कोई लोड नहीं है. She will always be surrounded by the family members. She will be never left alone. In that case, these kind of emotional outbursts, even if they existed, they were very mild in nature. But now, such kind of emotional outbursts are highly significant because of the threat of loss of economic freedom in case of women due to pregnancy and motherhood. In that case, certain societies or certain countries, they have realized this fact. अब उस केस में आप देखो कि husband and wife, since they both are working, that means one's income is not sufficient enough to take care of the income or expenditure of the house. So अगर if one is not working or one is staying at home, she's getting the salary, it's okay. Or even if she's not getting the salary, they cannot actually afford. The husband cannot actually afford to sit in the house, and that's why as a society becomes egalitarian, the demand for paternal leave will increase. For sure, it will increase. And the government will definitely, no company will by themselves come up and say कि चलो कोई बात नहीं, you take 6 months of paternal leave will pay or paid leave will be there, or say for 2 children you can take it, and in that case 1 year of full salary has to be given without taking any kind of work. ऐसा तो नहीं होगा. And in such scenarios, it is only possible when government institutionalizes or it makes it legal right for individuals. Only then this will happen, and this is a kind of modern Kuwait. The husband definitely imitates, or the husband realizes that yes, I have to share the same burden with my wife during pregnancy and during parenthood. Okay, so Tyler says that this kind of practice actually started during the matrilineal society, and you can understand the reason for this. The female dominance would have been there, and that's why this practice is justified. But there is another scholar, Reglan, who suggested that this practice is not related to matrilineal or patrilineal society. This practice is some kind of irrational belief, or a kind of that started out of extreme love of man for his woman or for his partner, and this irrational belief would have been the reason for development of marriage. Okay, that when that person and the man would have faced or would have experienced that extreme love, that he imitates exactly the same behavior, or also he also imitates the pain that the woman suffers during delivery of the child. That extreme love will future में जब वो formalize होगा, that would have led to the birth of institution of marriage. Okay, so this is about Kuwait, just right? Kuwait in bracket sympathetic pregnancy. Sympathetic pregnancy. In Kuwait, husband presumes to share his wife's agony, and imitates her labor pain. Husband presumes to share his wife's agony and imitates her labor pain. It develops a sense of responsibility. And bond between husband and wife. For example, among Khasis, men refrain from active life. They go on sick diet. And observe the same taboos. As applicable on women. Okay. According to Tyler, this practice is a remnant of matrilineal society. According to Raglan, it is an irrational belief. That existed prior to marriage. And led to evolution of marriage. The next one is imitate and avunculate. So imitate refers to the relationship with father sister in a patriarchal society, while avunculate mainly refers to relationship with mother's brother. However, आप ये patriarchal हटा दो, it's in both the cases. Relation with father sister and mother's brother, that is imitate and avunculate, that is bua and mama. So here in this case, when we see these relationships, so in certain societies this imitate relationship is very important. The relationship or the responsibility that is given to father sister. For example, in the patriarchal society, father sister hold a very important role. So whenever, for example, in your family, if you take yourself as an ego, you'll see that whenever some kind of gifts has to be coming from your nana nani side, okay, that is maternal grandmother side. So something specifically has to be there for father's sister and her husband. वो और फूफा के लिए कुछ ना कुछ होना चाहिए. It should never be that anything that gifts that is coming from your maternal side should exclude your father, sister, and her family. In fact, if there is any celebration that is going to happen in your maternal relationships, maybe at your mama's place or at your, say, nana nani's place, in that case also there has to be an invitation that should be extended to your father, sister, and her family. At least this much connection has to be made. Now, the father, sister also hold a very important role in your naming ceremonies. When you are born, so that rite of passage, that creates a social being, you, that the father sister plays a very important role there. So she, in most of the societies, she gets the authority to choose the name. Although she might not come up with the name, but out of all the ones, means that are the probable names, she will be the one who will choose the final name, and that is the responsibility that shows her position in the patriarchal family. Okay. Second, the mother's brother. So here mama also plays a very important role. Even in the patriarchal society and matriarchal society or matrilineal society, in both the cases, mother's brother play a very important role. So you're seeing in patriarchal societies also, there are certain responsibilities and duties that are assigned to the mother's brother. Specifically, if there is a girl, if woman has given birth to a girl, then mama definitely holds a very significant responsibility there. So he will come, or in your wedding, your mama has a very important role. He has to bring some specific type of jewelry, or even in my culture, so mama has to bring a specific type of pagdi, that is the turban, that has to be brought by from the mama side. So why these kind of relationship does exist? Imitate and evinculate. So there are scholars like structure functionists who say that these are to maintain the link with those members of the society who are not actively participating in our family. So even if the father's sister, she has left our house, but we should not break our relationship. And how to retain that relationship is by assigning certain rights and responsibilities on father sister. In the same way, just to maintain a contact, since the same case is with mother side, the mother is somebody's sister, so mama will also maintain a particular type of relationship with her sister and sister's family. But here, basically, if you're seeing it from the woman's side, then I'm talking about father sister. Okay, if you're seeing it from the men's side, so mama wala relationship. Okay, so just to maintain the relationship between the family members who are now married or due to exogamy, they have been separated and they are living in different families now. So this evitate and evinculate, that will be used to maintain that relationship, to retain that bond between brother and sister who are now, due to exogamy, living in different families. Okay, so just like this. Imitate refers to the rights and responsibilities assigned to father's sister. Right, and responsibilities assigned to father's sister. While evinculate refers to the rights and responsibilities assigned to mother's brother. These relationships exist to maintain solidarity with siblings, in bracket family members who have been separated due to exogamy. Okay. Last one, technonymy. So here technonymy means calling the father of the child not with his name but by certain pseudonyms. That is what is called as technonymy. So this is a very common feature in rural areas, where the wives would not be calling their husband with their name, but rather calling their husband with the name of their child. Okay, or certain other pseudonyms. So Tyler says that this existed because of matrilineal society. Why? Or it's a kind of remnant of matrilineal society, because when the man used to live in the house of his wife, in that case he was seen as an outsider, and seen as an outsider plus a subordinate, and that's why he was not, since he was a subordinate, that's why he was an outsider, he was not given any special kin term for him, or they do not directly recognize any relationship with him. So indirectly किस तरीके से recognize करेंगे? By associating him with the child. So direct recognition नहीं करना था, he was considered to be an outsider and a subordinate one, so that's why they did not assign a direct relationship or direct kin term to that person. That is technonymy. But Lowy, he says that it's not at all prevalent only in matrilineal societies, it's present in both matrilineal and patrilineal societies, and it might be used because of subordinate position of women. When the woman status is subordinate, she does not get the authority to take the name of her husband. Okay, this is one of the reasons. And second, it's because of lack of noun in the language. So the vocabulary of the language might not be that developed to create a new term, new kin term, and that's why the husband might be called by the child's name. Okay, so this is what is called as technonymy. Just like this. Technonymy refers to practice of referring father by name of his children. According to Tyler, it is a practice that's a remnant of, matrilineal society. The husband was considered to be an outsider. And was not included in primary kin group. And was called through the name of children. According to Lowy, it is used in both patrilineal and matrilineal societies. Might be due to lower status of women, or due to lack of nouns in their language, Okay. Next one is kinship terminology. So kinship terminology means the terms that we use to call our kins. Okay, we have read a brief of it while talking about like Morgan, classificatory and descriptive. So we'll see this in somewhat more detail, what is kinship terminology and different types of kinship terminology across the world. So different scholars, they have given different meanings or different attachments to understanding of kinship terminology. The first one which we saw in the very first theory was that of Morgan, who says that there are two types of kinship terminology in the world. First one is classificatory and descriptive, and classificatory evolves to descriptive. And the reason for this change or this evolution was two main reasons. The first one was jealousy that emerged due to sharing of wives, and the second is the rise of private property. So these are the two determinants of kinship terminology. Okay, rise of private property and the jealousy that emerged due to sharing of wives, and that would lead to monogamous or polygynous relationship, and hence clear-cut descent, and hence kinship terminology would become more descriptive in nature. Okay, now there is another scholar, Rivers, W.H.R. Rivers. We have also talked about this when Rivers suggested that kinship terminology is an ancient social fact. Ancient social fact means it's a kind of repository, or it's a kind of data storage जिसमें आपको past की marriage practice के बारे में पता चल जाएगा. You will be able to decode the marriage practices or mating practices that used to happen in the past. So these are information boxes of that. So one example I have already told you, that is the Devar. So that actually shows that in the past the sister-in-law could marry the younger brother-in-law, and in case of death of the husband. So such kind of terminologies, they do reflect, or they were ancient social fact, that is the repositories of the mating practices that used to happen in the past. Okay, then comes a scholar, Murdoch. So he classifies kinship terminology into several types. The first one is on the basis of use, or by mode of use. And here there are two types of kinship terminology. The first one is term of address, and the second one is term of reference. So what does this mean, term of address and term of reference? So term of address means when you are talking to that person face to face, how are you going to call him? Okay, the way you are referring to that person when in a face to face interaction. And the second one is term of reference, the way you recall that person or call that person in a third party conversation. So for example, when you talk to your father, you might be using a specific term, okay, to call your father, and that might be a completely personal term that you might be using for your father. Okay, but when you will be referring about your father, maybe when you get selected and you are supposed to come here and give the credit for your success, so when you will be quoting your father, so you will not be using the same term which you use while talking to him. Okay, but rather you will be a little more respectful. Okay, so that is the term of reference. The thing can become opposite also. So the way you talk to your wife or husband in face-to-face interaction, so you have to be respectful, while the way you talk about him or her in a third party conversation, so you might be using a completely altogether a different term. So the term of address and the term of reference, that is face-to-face interaction, and the third party interactions, how you are going to call that person. Then comes on the basis of linguistic structure. First one is elementary. What does this mean, elementary? So it is irreducible word. That means it's only a single word. For example, father, mother. All such kind of words are called to be elementary kinship terms. And then there is a derivative term. So father's brother or mother's sister, something like this, that constitute multiple relatives, or that constitute multiple terms just to, or you're kind of creating a linkage using an elementary term and then linking that person by using that elementary term. So father-in-law, mother-in-law, and all that stuff, these are the derived terms. Okay. So these are the two types of kinship terminologies as per Murdoch. Okay. Now comes Kroeber. So Kroeber says that kinship terminology, he actually kind of attacked Morgan, and he says that kinship terminology is neither classificatory nor descriptive. It's wrong to classify the kinship terminology into two types, because in every society there will be a mix of both. That there will be certain relationship that will be called by unique names, sorry, and there will be certain relationship that will be clubbed together and called by the same name. For example, we have unique name for our nuclear family members, father, mother, brother, and sister. But then all our siblings from our Mausi ki side or say Chacha ki side and all, they are called as cousins without specifically referring whether they are maternal or paternal cousins. They are just cousins. Okay, so descriptive and classificatory terminology do exist together. So this is what Kroeber suggested, that this distinction is flawed, and just distinguishing the kinship terminology based on jealousy and say private property, it's very limited. So he suggested that there are 9 determinants of kinship terminology, not 1, 2, but 9 determinants. एक एक करके आप लिखते जाओ. The first one is generation. Okay, so whether the people interacting with each other, whether they belong to the same generation, whether they belong to different generation, that will decide the term that they use to call each other. Okay, generation. Then the second factor that determines kinship terminology is the sex of the speaker, sex of the person who is referred to. Okay. Third is the speaker's sex. So in a patriarchal society, you can understand that when usually when the woman is actually subordinated, means you cannot imagine it with respect to your society, but in a very patriarchal, deep patriarchal societies, the son will be using a different terms for father and mother. Maybe that not that respectful, especially for mother. The son will be using a different term. Say he might only call her mummy or ma or whatever. But the daughter will have to use a different term, means has to be more respectful. So she might have to use G after every term that is being used, ma G or something like this. So it depends upon what is the sex of the speaker. Okay, that will decide the kinship terminology. Next point, that is lineality or collaterality. So here it depends whether the kin or relative is lineal or collateral. Okay, collateral means whether sideward relationship is there, or lineal means whether directly related through blood. Despite this, it creates distinction between collateral relatives, that is siblings, collateral relatives, that is siblings, and lineal relatives. Then affinity. So affinity means marriage. So whether the relationship is established through marriage. So for example, in-laws will be used. Next is relative age. So whether there is an age difference, even if in the same generation or even if at different generations, whether there is age difference and what level of age difference is there. Based on that, the terms might be different. Next one is address versus reference. Whether the term that you're using is in face-to-face contact or whether it is in a third-party conversation. Okay, whether you're calling that person face-to-face or back of that person. Address versus reference. Then comes bifurcation. Just write this bifurcation. It means forking. That is distinguished between, just right, relatives may be traced through either a male relative may be traced through either a male or a female connecting relative. Either a male or a female connecting relative. Okay. And last is polarity. So that's right, it recognizes that a relationship consists of two parties. A relationship consists of two parties. For example, aunt, niece, comma father, son, etc. Relationship consists of two parties. Okay. So these are the 9 determinants. Bifurcation and bifurcation means if you want to name some relative, you just have to first connect the dots. So from bifurcate karo, basically ki father side se relate kar rahe ho, or maybe you are relating that person from the mother side. So who is your connecting dot between that relative and you? Whether it's somebody from the father side or somebody from the mother side. Okay. So some uncle is there. So for example, that uncle might be from your father side. So you will be saying, say, father, sister, husband. So that case, that person will be called as Fufa. While if that uncle is mother's sister, husband, so that person will be called as Mausa. Okay. So that is what is called as the bifurcation. And polarity means it's more like a structural concept. But you have to understand that none of the relationship can exist alone. Somebody is something with respect to somebody else. So one is a father with respect to a son, one is an aunt with respect to a niece. That is polarity. Okay. मतलब कौन सा linguistic structure? हाँ तो मर्डॉक ने आइडिया दिया, इसको इतना सीरियसली ये पूछते भी नहीं है, मतलब ऐसा बोला है मर्डॉक ने, बस इसको एक्सेप्ट कर लो, ठीक है. Now, इस सबसे मतलब outdated topic है, seriously, means terminologies and all that stuff that used to be the part of our syllabus in anthropology somewhere in 1950s, 60s, because that was something that was studied curiously by different scholars who were then going for fieldwork expeditions in different societies, and they were very much interested to understand how they would be calling their relatives. And from then on, it's a part of our syllabus. But आज के टाइम पे in no college, in no education curriculum, there is any kind of work that is being talked about in kinship terminology. So, for example, जो कल हम लोगों ने देखा, that is the idea of relatedness. That is one of the most discussed topic in the present time in college curriculum. ठीक है, but the problem is कि UPSC has a long way to go वहां तक पहुंचने में, तब तक आपका ये सेफ है. और इसलिए यूनिट 2 से आप देखोगे, although it's a very big unit, the questions are relatively less in number. हार्डली 1-2 क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं हर साल, but that doesn't mean you can skip it because you never know UPSC का माइंड कब चेंज हो जाए. Now, Murdoch, he compiled an encyclopedia or a kind of global atlas, ethnographic atlas, in which he divided the kinship terminology across the world into 6 types. Okay, and these are, the first one, Hawaiian terminology. So this is one of the most classificatory type of terminology according to Murdoch, and it distinguishes only due to sex and generation. Okay, just like distinguish between sex and generation. And one more line: all relative of same sex and same generation, all relative of same sex and same generation are called by same name. All relative of same sex and same generation will be called by the same name. Same sex and same generation. All the male of this generation will be called by the same name. In the same way, all the female of this generation will be called by the same name. I'm just numbering them with the same number just to show that they are called by the same name. And then all the cousins and brothers of the same, all the cousins of the same sex will be called by the same name as that of brother or sister. and in the same way all the girls. This is Hawaiian. Simple idea hai, same sex, same generation, same name. One of the most classificatory type of terminology. सिंपल सा फिर से वही रिपीट करूंगा, सेम सेक्स, ये जनरेशन में जो मेल्स हैं मतलब फादर वाली जनरेशन में, तो दे विल बी कॉल्ड बाय द सेम नेम एज फादर. तो दिस इज फूफा जी हैं वैसे तो, और दिस इज से चाचा, बट यहाँ पे दिस आप इस पर्सपेक्टिव से देखो, व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट इज दिस ईगो. इसके रिस्पेक्ट में ही विल बी यूजिंग द सेम नेम एज ही इज यूजिंग फॉर हिज फादर, फॉर his father's sister husband, and also for his father's brother. In the same way, he will be using the same term as he is using for his father, for his mother's brother and mother's sister husband also. Same, सारे cousins जो same sex के हैं will be called as the same name. हाँ, sorry. ये तो मैंने बहुत शुरुआत में बोला कि according to Murdoch, this is the most classificatory type of kinship terminology. अरे ऐसी kinship terminology exist नहीं करती reality में, but this is the Hawaiian form. Now you can understand this means इससे आप क्या data infer कर सकते हो. Here one thing that you can infer from here is that cousin marriages of either cross or parallel will not be allowed, isn't it? Since all the relatives of the same generation are called as the same name as father and mother, so their children will definitely be related as brother and sister. In that case, they cannot marry among their cousins, either cross or parallel. दोनों cases में there will be no cousin marriages allowed. Second one is somebody saying like पापा बड़े पापा, अम्मी बड़ी अम्मी. अरे मतलब जरूरी नहीं कि हर चीज का एग्जांपल इंडिया में मिल ही जाए. Okay. Second is Eskimo. So here there is a mix of classificatory and descriptive terminology. Here you will see that there is a distinct term for the nuclear family members, and the rest, all the other relatives of same sex and same generation, called by the same name. So, just write this first. There is a distinct term for nuclear family members. Distinct term for nuclear family members. Rest, all the relatives of same sex and same generation are called by same name. Distinct term for nuclear family members. So if I call the father 1, mother 2, brother 3 and sister 4. Now this term will not be used anywhere else. Okay, this is the unique term for nuclear family member. Rest, all the members of same sex, same generation called by same name. So in this generation, all the males called by the same name, all the females called by the same name. Okay, then here all the males cousin will be called by the same name and female cousin will be called by the same name. Okay, ये तो आंसर लेने से पहले सोचना था. आता नहीं वैसे जनरली, और 2-3 बार पढ़ोगे याद हो जाएगा. ये ऐसे नहीं कि डायग्राम याद रखने बैठ जाओ. जस्ट कंस्ट्रक्ट दिस डायग्राम फ्रॉम व्हाटएवर न्यूक्लियर फैमिली डिस्टिंक्ट नेम, एंड बाकी उसके बाद ऑल द रिलेटिव फ्रॉम सेम सेक्स सेम जनरेशन सेम नेम. तो न्यूक्लियर फैमिली का अलग नाम रख दिया, एंड देन ऑल द रिलेटिव ऑफ सेम सेक्स, दैट इज इस जनरेशन में जितने भी मेल हैं सेम नेम, इस जनरेशन में जितनी फीमेल्स हैं दे विल बी कॉल्ड बाय द सेम नेम, एंड कजिन साइड में जितनी फीमेल कजिन्स हैं दे विल बी कॉल्ड बाय द सेम नेम इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ वेदर दे आर पैटर्नल और मैटरनल, एंड कजिन्स मेल कजिन्स विल बी कॉल्ड बाय द सेम नेम. सो हियर दिस सोसाइटी इज मोर bilateral in nature rather than linear. It's more bilateral, that is father relative from father and mother side both are equally important, right? And here cousin marriages will be, or there is a probability that the cousin marriage both parallel and cross can be allowed. ठीक है, एस्किमो नाम में ही एग्जांपल है, और द इन्यूट्स पीपल. बाय लीनियर तो मतलब आप डिसेंट ट्रेस कर रहे हो ना, लैटरल मींस साइडवर्ड रिलेटिव्स. ओके, हो गया ये. नेक्स्ट वन, ओमाहा. This is also on the name of a North American Indian tribe, that is Omaha of North America. So here there is some difference. Father and father's brother will be called by the same name. That's right. Father and father brother called by the same name. Mother and mother's sister will be called by the same name. Father and father's brother, mother and mother's sister called by the same name. And third, all male member of mother's patrilineage, all male member of mother's patrilineage will be called by the same name. That is, in bracket you can write mama और मामा का बेटा. All male members from mother's patrilineage will be called by the same name. Now एक बार आप अपने एंड से ट्राई करो इसका डायग्राम बनाने का. मींस इट्स गुड फॉर यू, आप लोग सीख जाओगे. डोंट कॉपी. सिंपल सा है, एक ऐसे कपल बनाना चाहिए पहले. सबसे पहले स्टार्ट विद दिस कपल एंड देन एक्सटेंड द रिलेशनशिप. दिस मैन विल हैव ब्रदर एंड सिस्टर, a sister and a brother. Okay, then this woman will have a brother and sister. Okay, then this brother and sister would have their own husband and wife respectively. So wife of this brother and husband of this sister. In the same way, this brother and sister would have their husband and wife. Okay, Now they will have their children, and this will be the ego. Okay, so क्या मतलब एक ही सेक्स में मतलब किसमें? अच्छा इसके मतलब दोनों लड़के ही हो सकते हैं। अरे यार मतलब ये जनरल है ये, ठीक है? मतलब ये जनरल आइडिया है कि मतलब इसके एक लड़का लड़की तो किस नाम से बुलाए जाएंगे, बस जस्ट टू गिव अब उसके दो लड़के हैं तीन लड़के हैं उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Okay, so let's start. Fathers and fathers brother will be called by the same name. So this is father, ego ka father, and father's brother, and mother's sister will be called by the same name. Then all the male members of mother's patrilineage will be called by the same name. That is mama and beta uska. They will be called by the same name. And so here, if you see that father and father's brother, they're called by the same name. So in that case, the siblings of father के जो बच्चे हैं, they will be as good as the one's own blood siblings. So if I say that these are 3 and 4, they should also be sorry. So it's 4 and 5. So then they will also be called as 4 and 5. Here also, since she is being called as the mother, then 4 and 5. So here you can understand one thing, that parallel cousin marriage will not be allowed. Can you guess from this? Because parallel cousins are called with the same name as brother and sister. This is what is called as the Omaha kinship terminology. 3 terms: father and father brother called by the same name, mother and mother sister called by the same name. Then all the male member of father's patrilineage, sorry, mother's patrilineage are called by the same name. That is Omaha. अरे उसे क्या? No. ये बोला तो parallel cousin marriage will not be allowed. So parallel cousin will be called as the same name as इसका लॉजिक भी है ना, since see this the mother's sister is also called with the same name as mother. हाँ क्या मामा की डॉटर का क्या मतलब क्या बोलेंगे उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है यार? He is a potential mate here. अरे कुछ भी नंबर डाल दो यार, बाकी 6 7 put whatever, doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is कि कहाँ पे what specific terms have to be used here. तो simple logic यही है. Okay, next one is हाँ क्रॉस होगा father sister children and mother's brother. और सिंपल सा आइडिया है यहाँ पे, that since you're calling your father's brother as father, तो उनके बच्चे भी तो आपके भाई बहन जैसे लगेंगे. And since you're calling your mother sister as mother, so her daughter will also be called as the same name as your brother and sister. Next one is crow. This is also related to a community in North America. So it's just a mirror image of the Omaha system, just opposite of it. The slide features fathers and father's brother, same name. Father and father's brother, same name. Mother and mother's sister, same name. And all female members of father's patrilineage will be called by the same name. That is बुआ और बुआ की बेटी. Okay, so again the same picture. So again, father and father's brother, and mother and mother sister called by the same name. Then father's sister and her daughter will be called by the same name. Okay, so now again the parallel cousin will be called by the same. Okay, this is the crow system. Okay, okay. वहां पे बेसिकली फादर ब्रदर फादर मदर सिस्टर वाला था, बट वहां पे मामा साइड एंड हियर बुआ साइड. नेक्स्ट वन इज द इरोक्वाई सिस्टम ऑफ टर्मिनोलॉजी. ओके, द साइड father and father brother the same name, father and father brother same name, mother and mother sister with the same name. ठीक है. Third, all parallel cousins will be called in the same name or with the same name as brother and sister. All parallel cousins will be called as with same name as brother and sister. And last, all cross cousins are called with the same name. All cross cousins are called with the same name. Okay. So father and father's brother, this mother and mother's sister, parallel cousin will be called as with the same name, and cross cousins will be called with the same name. ठीक है? Done? इतनी मायूसी के आ गई है यहाँ पे। ये मतलब ये सारे क्वेश्चन ना एकदम प्लेटर पे आने वाले क्वेश्चन है, मींस जीरो दिमाग लगाना है, बस लिख देना है जो भी दिमाग में है। ओके, सो कोई एनालिसिस नहीं करनी, कोई ओपिनियन नहीं देना, कुछ नहीं, मींस इफ दीस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, दैट्स व्हाई एंथ्रोपोलॉजी इज वन ऑफ द फेवरेट सब्जेक्ट, द रीजन फॉर दीस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस। आप ये मत सोचो कि कास्ट और ये सब चीजें बहुत रिलेट कर पा रहे हो, इस वजह से एंथ्रोपोलॉजी लोग ले रहे हैं। दीस एरियाज विल बी कास्ट एंड ट्राइब एंड ऑल दैट, इफ दे स्टार्ट एक्सप्लोरिंग दैट एरिया इन पेपर 2, so there is no end to it, and most of the questions will be opinion based. उस केस में you will have to keep a tap of everything that is happening around you, any law, any commission that is being formed, आपको EPW पढ़ना पड़ जाएगा। यही सब क्वेश्चन है जिसकी वजह से मींस अब आप सोचो किनशिप टर्मिनोलॉजी पे अगर पूछ जाएगा डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ किनशिप टर्मिनोलॉजी 15 मार्क, प्रे टू गॉड ऐसा क्वेश्चन आता है, 15 नंबर का क्वेश्चन है, वी हैव रिटन ऑल दीस थिंग्स, एक्सप्लेन ऑल दीस 6 टाइप ऑफ टर्मिनोलॉजी, देयर इज नो डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑफ द एग्जामिनर टू डिडक्ट मार्क्स, नंबर काटेगा क्यों? सो फॉर श्योर 15 में से 10-11 नंबर श्योर है मिलने ही मिलने हैं इन सच काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चन, नो ब्रेनर क्वेश्चंस एट ऑल। ओके, एंड टू टेल यू, बी assured that 50 to 60% of the questions that are going to come in paper 1 will be of this kind, where you can just mention the exact details what you have read and easily get 80 to 90% or even means 70 to 80% total marks, वहां पे आपको आराम से मिल सकता है। So out of 15 you can easily bag 10 to 12 marks because there is no discretion for the examiner to detect the marks. सीधे क्वेश्चन है, in opinion there is always a subjectivity, and when there is a subjectivity the marks, there is no objective criteria for giving the marks, so examiner can give you as many marks as he is pleased to do, but यहाँ पे नंबर काटने का स्कोप नहीं बनता है। So that's why these are some kind of platters, हर यूनिट 2 में ऐसे platters बहुत सारे हैं, सीधे टर्म्स हैं, and they will be asked as a 10 mark question, answer में you will see that these kind of questions do come as a 10 mark question, easily number gain करने के options होते हैं। answer में 10 mark means I am telling you that इससे पहले when the paper was clearly segregated into section 1 and 2, wherein the section 2 was physical anthropology and section 1 was social-cultural anthropology, there were people who were taking means अभी तो ऐसा नहीं होगा because the questions are getting mixed now, there is no clear-cut segregation between physical and social-cultural, but earlier there was a clear-cut segregation that section 2 consisted of physical anthropology only, and there were certain students who were very sure about their knowledge in physical anthropology because more or less the question were factual and straightforward question, no opinion required, and if you have good amount of content, so if you attempt out 150 marks of question from physical anthropology, that is the 3 questions, you can easily bag 120 out of it, 110 out of 150, that was very easy to score, and section 1 बस आप attempt करके आ जाओ तो your overall score will be 140 145 in paper 1, and the same was case in paper 2 wherein the section 2 was mainly tribal and section 1 was village and caste, so people used to prepare tribal because it was more or less objective in nature, बहुत ज़्यादा opinion based question नहीं होते वहाँ। So then the same score used to replicate in paper 2 as well, and there are people who have scored 180 marks in both paper 1 and paper 2. Okay, and Lakshmi you must have heard, so she got 362 I guess in total, so 180 जब आ रहे हैं तो आप समझ रहे हो कि उसको किसी ना किसी क्वेश्चन में 80% प्लस भी मिले होंगे और 90% के आसपास भी मिले होंगे, then only she was able to bag 180 and 182 marks in paper 1 and 2 respectively. So that would have happened only in these type of questions जहाँ पे there is no brainer, it's like सीधा facts पूछे गए हैं, just write whatever you know and nothing to be written from your own side, no opinion should be given, बस एक ठीक ठाक सा प्रेजेंट कर दिया आपने, that's it. ओके, तो इन सब चीजों को डोंट इग्नोर इट कि यार इसको याद करना पड़ेगा बिकॉज़ ये क्वेश्चन आ गया तो यू विल बी फीलिंग अ लॉट मोर गिल्टी इस क्वेश्चन को छोड़ के आगे, रेस्ट ऑफ द पीपल विल बी टेकिंग एट लीस्ट 3-4 मार्क्स एज ओवर यू इफ यू आर लिविंग दिस टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस। लास्ट वन दैट इज Sudanese kinship terminology. It's the most descriptive wherein no relative has the same name, simple, write it, most descriptive, no relatives have same name. Okay, simple, draw this diagram जिसमें सबके नंबर्स अलग अलग होंगे। ओके, so these are the types of kinship terminology, यहाँ पे भी सबके नंबर अलग अलग आप लिख लो बस। ईगो का जेंडर कुछ भी हो, उसका एक भाई होगा, उसकी एक बहन होगी, उसका एक माँ, उसके बाप होगा, होगा कि नहीं होगा, अब उसके जेंडर से क्या फर्क पड़ता है इस पे? पर मैं कह रहा हूँ कि चाहे वो महिला हो चाहे वो पुरुष हो, लेकिन उसका भाई बहन होगा कि नहीं होगा, है ना, उसकी मदर फादर होंगे कि नहीं होंगे? अरे हाँ ना कुछ बोलो भाई। ठीक है, तो एक ऐसे किसी भी पर्सन के रिस्पेक्ट में देखना कि वो अपने फादर, अपने मदर, अपने ब्रदर सिस्टर और अपने कजन को किस तरीके से बुलाएगा, चाहे वो मेल हो चाहे वो फीमेल। ओके, नाउ किनशिप स्टडीज इन इंडिया। So this study was done by Iravati Karve in India. Iravati Karve, I might have talked about her a bit. So she is the first female anthropologist of India. So she kind of compiled almost all the village studies of North, South, East, and West or Central India. And based on that, she actually devised the type of kinship terminologies or kinship practices that are followed in different parts of India. Okay. So here he wrote a book. The name of the book is Kinship Organization in India. She says that in India, any cultural phenomena, if you want to observe, you have to see it from three perspectives, or you need to have an understanding of three aspects, and then you will easily be able to understand that particular cultural phenomena. In that region, you need to be aware of the caste system, prevalent caste system. Okay. So she says that caste is a very local phenomenon. We'll be describing this idea later on when we'll be reading paper 2. So she says that caste is a very local entity. That means one particular caste exists only in a particular locality only. मतलब उसका relevance एक particular locality में ही है. Beyond that, there is no caste that is pan-Indian. So every caste is relevant, irrelevant, or whatever the position that particular caste has, that is a very local entity in nature. So for example, there might be some Gupta. Okay, आप में से Gupta कितने लोग हैं? कोई नहीं है. अच्छा एक और कोई नहीं है Gupta. चलो. So then, for example, the Guptas in UP or say Purvanchal region, and Gupta of Western UP, that is the Meerut, जो Baghpat and all these region, and then Guptas of Delhi. They are completely different entities. इनमें कोई ऐसा नहीं है कि तीनों के तीनों एक कास्ट को बिलोंग कर रहे हैं. And there is no comparison between Gupta of Delhi and Western UP and Eastern UP. They are completely local entities. And there, for example, आपको पता होगा कि पूर्वांचल region के जो Gupta है, they are counted as OBCs, but they are not OBCs in Meerut. Or if you are having a Meerut domicile, or maybe you are in Western UP, then you are not an OBC. Maybe in Delhi, I don't know what's the status of Gupta, whether they are OBCs or general. Or Gujarat, they are not at all OBCs. Okay, so that depends where you actually come from. Means caste is completely a local entity. In fact, she says caste is an extended kin group. That is a group of people living in a particular locality who are related either by blood or marriage. Okay. Related by blood or marriage. That is what is a caste. The second thing she says that you should be aware of is the prevalence of joint family. Okay, that how prevalent is the joint family in that particular region or in that particular caste group. So we have seen like Pauline Kolinda ki study. She says that the joint family is prevalent, highly prevalent in Gangetic region. Okay, and then she says that it's also a feature of higher caste compared to lower caste. There is higher prevalence of joint family in higher caste people. Okay, so this will also determine their kinship behaviors and kinship terminology. I'll tell you how. But the second feature that she says that should be taken into consideration is the joint family, and the third feature she says that should be taken into consideration is the linguistic family. That is to what family the language of the local people belongs to, whether it's an Indo-Aryan language or sorry Indo-European language, or whether it is a Dravidian language, or whether there is an Austrian language. Means these are some language families. So you have to understand the language that the locals speak. ये किस family को belong करती है. We'll be reading all these families in the next chapter itself, linguistic anthropology. So this is what she says. These three phenomena, if you are able to analyze, you can understand any other cultural phenomena with respect to them. The prevalence of caste system, joint family, and the language that they speak. So by collecting the data, she basically divided India into 4 regions. Okay, and these 4 regions are northern, southern, central, and eastern region. Okay, based on kinship, northern, southern, and central and eastern region. So in all these 4 regions, there are different types of kinship practices that are followed. So for example, in northern, she says that the 4 factors are very important. First one is territoriality, that is to which land you belong. Okay, and many of the caste names are derived from the territories. Okay, so you pre-Brahmins और बहुत सारे और भी ऐसे caste groups हैं, means wherein you will see that they will have specific territory attached to their name. That they are Brahmins of this area, they are Baniyas of that particular area, they are say the traders of that particular area. This is the territoriality. Okay, for example, हमारे यहाँ पे एक गांव है, means anybody from Gorakhpur side would know that there is a very famous village that is called as बांस गांव, जहाँ से ठाकुर बहुत सारे हैं. Means they specifically mention that हम बांस गांव के ठाकुर हैं. Okay, this is how they will introduce themselves when asked about to introduce or give an introduction about their caste. So they will specifically not mention that we are Thakurs, but we are Thakurs from that specific village. Okay, and then there is a specific village, I'm just forgetting the name, where a particular Bhumiyar group also belongs. Bhumiyar means the one who used the surname as Rai. So they are Bhumiyars. Okay, so they also will introduce themselves with that particular village name, that we are Bhumiyars from that particular village. Okay, so this is the territoriality. The second one is genealogy. That is, they will clearly mention the name of their nearby at least 2-3 generation ancestors को वो याद रखते हैं, या 4-5 generation ancestors का नाम वो याद रखते हैं, that we are great grandson of so and so. Okay, not just this, there is a specific bahi khata or a ledger that is maintained that at least remembers the name of 10 to 15 or 20 generations of the family members. In fact, such kind of ledger is maintained in Haridwar for anybody who might have went to Haridwar for some funeral or some other Asthi Visarjan ke liye. So there you will find that there are several pandas who are associated with specific families, and these kind of practices followed in different places जहाँ पे funeral practices होती हैं across India also. So there will be specific pandits who are associated with specific families. So whenever any person going to from that family goes for Asthi Visarjan, so they definitely will meet any panda कि कोई उनका जो last rites कराएगा, and in that case that panda knows that this person of this gotra उसका record किस पंडित के पास पड़ा हुआ है, and he will immediately contact that pandit, and that pandit will maintain the lineage, that is maintain the genealogical record. And if you ask them, just pay them some money and they will let you know कि आपके दूर दूर के रिश्तेदार किस एरियाज में हैं and what they are doing, उनका नाम क्या है, and so on so forth. They have all that record. Even they can tell you your relative's name maybe 100-150 years back. Okay, and this is the genealogical record that they maintain. The third one is local exogamy. That means since they are associated with territory, they will assume that any person living in the same territory is related to that person. Okay, it's a relative, and that's why they will always in same village or same even in the same town they will not marry. They will always follow local exogamy. So एक village के बाहर ही शादी करेंगे. और या फिर एक town, if that is a small town, they will make sure that they do not marry in the same town. Now that is equally valid because if you see the definition of Karve with respect to caste, the first caste is a local entity, and second it's nothing but an extended kin group. So मतलब जो local में रह रहे हैं, they are all relatives, and that means उनसे marriage करना will be incest. Okay, so that's why they will follow local exogamy. And the last one, incest taboo. So here in incest taboo, you will find that among the high caste, 4 gotra rule are followed. That is, anybody cannot marry in 4 gotras, and that 4 gotras are that of mother, father, maternal grandmother, and paternal grandmother. Mummy, papa, nani, and dadi. Okay. And in lower caste, this 4 gotra rule is not followed. It's usually 2 gotra. Okay. That is, mother and father ke gotra mein, if there is a common relative for 5 generations, that marriage will be considered to be incestuous in nature. Okay. इतने ध्यान से मुझे क्या देख रहे हो, लिखो उसको. Sorry. Genealogy means क्या होता है? Geneo means आपके relatives, genealogy relatives, और logy means उनकी study करना, मतलब उसका record maintain करना. That is what is genealogy. Okay, गोत्र अलग चीज होगी. Means genealogy is a practice. आप लोग तो बहुत अलग चीज को लेकर. Why do they keep this? इसका हाँ, तो अभी इनको digitize भी किया जा रहा है. हाँ, इसका reason मतलब मैं I'm like speechless उसके लिए मैं क्या ही बताऊँ. I'll ask them कि भाई क्यों कर रहे हो? एक बार नहीं मतलब 150 साल 200 साल पुराने relative का क्या हो गया? Means I'll just confirm it once एक बार की. हाँ, हो गया. हाँ, हो तो उन सबका नाम लेंगे वो. ओ ठीक है. थैंक्स यार, मेरे को पता नहीं सीरियसली. नाउ हियर द नेक्स्ट थिंग इज prevalence of dowry and hypergamy. So dowry practice, you know it. Hypergamy, you know it, that when a girl marries somebody higher in hierarchy. अब देखो कि ऐसा नहीं है कि hypergamy का मतलब है that एक ठाकुर है वो ब्राह्मण से शादी करेंगे. So it won't happen like this. Among Rajputs or Thakurs also there are certain hierarchies of clans. Okay, and in that case the girl of a lower hierarchical clan might marry somebody from higher hierarchical clan. For example, हमारे यहाँ पे जैसे बनिए हैं जो, so उनकी caste groups हैं and they are arranged in hierarchy. So Gupta, Jaiswal and Madheshya, Maheshwaris, Agarwal, Agraharis. So these all are baniyas there, and they are arranged in hierarchies. And in that case, Jaiswal is considered to be lower in hierarchy than Gupta. Okay, and Guptas are considered to be lower in hierarchy than Agarwals. Okay, so उस case में if a Jaiswal girl marries a Gupta, then it will be considered to be a hypergamy. सही है? So this is, अरे मेरे को डर ही लगता है कि पता चल क्या रहा है ऐसे कैसे बोले Jaiswal नीचे. हाँ. So actually it might differ also because local areas में अलग-अलग हर जगह पे अलग-अलग होता है. So please don't get offended if you are a Jaiswal or a Gupta. Okay. So next, here the kinship terminology in North is more descriptive in nature. Okay, that is there is a clear-cut distinction between family of birth and family of marriage. Clear-cut distinction between family of birth and marriage, and also terms for blood relatives and affines are distinct and clear. Terms for blood relatives and affines, that is marital relatives, they are distinct and clear. You will understand the difference of this in with respect to South. Here the blood relatives and affinal relatives, they are not distinct. Okay, they might be called with the same name because there is cousin marriages or uncle niece marriages prevalent in the South. Okay, and that's why affinal relatives and consanguineal relatives names might not be distinct there. Okay, now let's see the southern part. Here in southern part, you will see that the society can be patrilineal or patrilocal. In certain areas, you will find that the society is both patrilineal and patrilocal, and also in certain areas it is matrilineal and matrilocal. Okay, so we have studied the case of Nayars, or there are several other communities like you must have heard about Mopla's rebellion during modern India वाले में आपने पढ़ा होगा. So they are also matrilineal communities. Okay, now in rules of marriage, what matters is age, not generation. So age is a very significant factor, not the generation. You will understand the relevance because anyone who marries, if a girl wants to marry a man, definitely the first criteria should be that the man should be older than the girl. So age is a factor, irrespective of the generation. So that person might be her cross cousin, or that person might be her uncle, mama. Okay, so that's why uncle niece marriage and cross cousin marriages are allowed. The only condition is the male should be elder to female. Okay. Next, the kinship terminology here is classificatory. Here in South, in certain states, the father and elder brother, they're called by the same name. Okay, the name can be, forgive me for pronouncing if I'm wrong, Anna. Okay, so they might be called with the same name, or mother and elder sister might be called with the same name Akka. Okay, then younger brother and son might be called with the same name as Pirkle. I don't know how to pronounce. And then the younger sister and daughter might be called with the same name. Okay. So the kinship terminology is classificatory in South. Moreover, there is no village exogamy that is followed. Means it's not necessary that the marriage should be outside village. It's not there. Okay. The next one. The third is the central zone. So here in the central zone, you'll see that it's a mix of northern and southern part. So here you will find that in some caste, two gotra rules are applicable, while in some places cross cousin marriages are allowed. It's a mixture of north and south. So for example, you can write this: in Rajasthan, Jats follow two gotra and village exogamy. In Rajasthan, Jats follow two gotra rule and village exogamy. Rajputs follow four gotra rule and hypergamy. Four gotra rule and hypergamy. Next point: in Kathiawar and Gujarat, some castes follow cross cousin. Second, some castes are allowed to marry once a year. Whereas some at every 4 years, and even some at every 4 years, and some even at a gap of 9 or 12 years. So here in these kind of castes, Iravati Karve mentions that when that particular year will come, when the marriage has to be scheduled, there will be all the caste members or all the family members in the nearby villages will be made aware that this is the year when the caste members have to get married. So this might come in 4 years gap, or maybe 5 years gap, or 9 or 12 years gap also. So in such caste you will find child marriages are very common. Okay, so 12 years hai, to suppose somebody is approaching say 10 or 11 years, so the next marriage is going to happen in 23 after when he or she might become 23. So in that case, at 11 they will get married. Why to wait for that next 12 years? So this is why child marriages are very frequent. So normally in this caste where the marriage gap is 12 years, the marriage happens usually between 1 or 12 years. ठीक है, 1 से 12 साल की उम्र में बच्चे की शादी हो जाएगी. Okay, this is something that she observed there. Now among Marathas, that is in Maharashtra, she clearly mentions that there is a clear-cut mixture of north and south, and even Marathi language has a kind of contribution or a kind of mixture from both Sanskrit and Dravidian language, and due to which you will find that kinship behaviors or marriage rules are a mixture. So here in Marathas, the Marathas are divided into two groups. One is the Kunbis, okay, that are the ones who were demanding OBC status in Maharashtra. That is the Marathas who are peasant caste. While then there are some who claim to be of royal lineage, and they are called as the members of 96 clans or Shahnava clans. That is how they pronounce themselves. That is 96 को हिंदी में 96 जो कहते हैं. That is how they pronounce themselves. And these were the people who basically were saying that we have inherited or we have originated from the royal lineage of the Maratha rulers or the nobles, and that's why we do not need OBC reservation. They were the ones who were not supporting the Kunbis for OBC reservations. But later on, it became a matter of convenience for both Kunbis and the 96 clans, wherein the people will be mentioning their caste as Kunbis in every official documents, wherein they need some kind of reservation benefits. While claiming or going for a marital alliance, they will project their caste to be of 96 clans, because that decides the price that a husband will get. Okay, that has become more a matter of convenience. Okay, the official document में that person will be an OBC belonging to Kunbi, and then in marital alliances they will be claiming that we are from this 96 clans. So here you will see that the marital practices can be of both the types. You'll find that 4 gotra or 2 gotra rule might be applicable in some groups, that they might be strictly following incest taboo, and in certain groups cross cousin marriages also might be prevalent. Okay, in Marathas. So this is the case of central group, and the last is eastern zone. So the slide इसमें कुछ explain करने वाला नहीं है. Among Ho and Santhal, cross cousin marriages is present. Actually, in very recent study, यार क्लास 7 बजने के बाद खांसियां बढ़ जाती हैं यार. So cross cousin marriages. So here among Ho and Santhal, you'll see अभी बहुत recent study है that there are a group of people who have been Hinduized due to culture contact with the peasant caste, and then there are Ho and Santhals who have been Christianized because of the presence of missionaries in their villages. So जहाँ पे missionaries का presence हुआ, वहाँ पे you will find that these cross cousin marriages, due to them accepting Christianity, became prevalent. While the group that were kind of coming in contact with Hindus, they adopted Hindu caste practices and they started following, say, that is the 2 gotra rule or maybe 4 gotra rule. 4 gotra rule तो नहीं है, but 2 gotra rule is definitely followed there because of their contact with Hindu or Hinduization of the tribes led them to follow that gotra rule. While Christianity से जो impact हुए, they basically followed or they started going for cross cousin marriages. Okay, next slide. Among Mundas, there are youth dormitories. For bachelors and maidens, that is for spinsters. for bachelors and maidens. Premarital sexual relationship is allowed. Premarital sexual relationship is allowed. Most of the marriage mate are different from the mates of dormitories. Garvey makes a statement that husband and wife are not absolutely virgin, but virgin to each other. That is the statement that she's making, that it's not necessary for them to be absolutely virgin. They have engaged into premarital sexual relationship, but it's more probable that these couple would never have engaged into a sexual act before marriage. So they would be virgin to each other while not absolutely virgin. Okay, next, they follow clan exogamy. Next, third, Khasis. They follow clan exogamy. Parallel cousin marriage is not allowed. Matrilineal society. And last, Khasi's husband is incorporated into his bride's house as a stranger. ठीक है? छोटे-छोटे दो टॉपिक्स हैं. One is matrilineal puzzle and complementary filiation. ये कर लेते हैं. And आज ये चैप्टर खत्म करके जाना है कुछ है. So matrilineal puzzle. So this term was coined by a scholar, Audrey Richards. So here she says that this matrilineal puzzle is with respect to the position of men in a matrilineal society. This was a question in this year's mains, 15-mark question, how the rules of precedence come in conflict with rules of descent. Illustrate with example with respect to the matrilineal society. So what she was explaining is, the question was asking is, matrilineal puzzle kya hai? So you will understand, I have already given you the examples of Tobriander societies, wherein the matrilineal descent is there while the residence is patrilocal, or in Endembu societies, the matrilineal descent but patrilocal or virilocal residence is there. So here Audrey Richards gives the idea of matrilineal puzzle, wherein she says that the position of man in a matrilineal society is kind of in a dilemma, or there is an ambiguous position of man in a matrilineal society. He is always torn between the loyalty towards his son and daughter and towards the loyalty towards his her sister's children. ठीक है, वो किसकी तरफ ज़्यादा loyal है? The one who are biologically related to him or the one who are related to him through descent. So here she says that matrilineal society, the acceptable role of man is not that of a husband, or the prominent role of a man is not that of a husband, which is the case in a patrilineal society. But the most acceptable role or the prominent role for a man in a matrilineal society is mother's brother. This is the most acceptable role. Now, this is the prominent role here. अब वो बता रही है कि suppose करो कि in a matrilineal society, what happens that woman is leaving her house. मान लो matrilineal society है, woman is leaving her house and starts living in the house of her husband. Okay, but the women have or considered to be the ones who will be producing the children for her matrilineal descent only, or she will be producing or reproducing matrikins. ये समझ में आ रहा है आपको कि the woman is given responsibility to produce children for her matrilineage. Okay, now what happens if she basically leaves the house? So then there has to be some contract that has to be made between woman's brother and woman's husband in order to retain the ownership of the children, because ultimately it's the woman's children who will be carrying on the descent of the matrilineage. So there has to be some kind of relationship or contract that has to be built between woman's brother and woman's husband. Woman's brother will be more concerned about the children who will be carrying on the descent of this family. तो यहाँ पे उसको contract बनाना पड़ेगा in order to retain his ownership over those children who will be passing on the descent. ये समझ में आ रहा है? Now the next case can be opposite. Woman remains here, but in this case, woman brother will have to go to other place. Are you getting this idea? कि woman remains at her own place, the residence is matrilocal. But इस case में the brother will have to move to other place. So they are losing the brother, which is the most important role in a matrilineal society. So that is creating a dilemma. What to do? And this is the conflict between the descent rule and the rules of residence. अगर woman छोड़ के जा रही है, so then the matrikin loses their next generation of descent holders. And if woman is staying, then the matrikin loses the mother's brother, who will be the one who will be taking care of the woman and the family. And this is what Audrey Richards calls as matrilineal puzzle. Here the क्या हुआ? नहीं समझ में आ रहा? हाँ? देखो, simple सी बात है. Here, woman is giving birth to children, and now children, आप एक patrilineal society में समझते हैं. Woman comes, gets married, she gives birth to the baby, and these babies are the one जो अपने father का descent carry कर रहे हैं. means आप लोग अपने father का नाम लेके चल रहे हो. Okay, clear cut है यहाँ पे, no issues. But here, in case of matrilineal descent, the children will be carrying on the descent of mother. So here, अब एक woman की जो family है, she needs to keep those children under their care, so that they should be taking care of those children who will be carrying on their descent, उनका नाम जो उनके वंश को आगे बढ़ाएंगे. Clear है? अब woman goes to other place. मान लो matrilineal descent है, but the woman leaves her house and lives with her husband. अब उस केस में she will also take away those children जो उस family के lineage को आगे बढ़ाने वाले हैं. So then there has to be some contract that has to be done between woman's brother and husband of the woman. How? Just to make sure that the children of the woman should come to them. अब दूसरा केस हो सकता है, that is when the woman stays at her own place, that is the residence is matrilocal. But in this case, the woman's brother will be living, she will be living with his own wife at her place. So इस केस में the matrilineal loses कौन? The male who will be taking care of, and that is what is called as the matrilineal puzzle. Okay, so here you can see that the rules of descent and rules of residence, they are in conflict, but they don't find this conflicting relationship in a patrilineal society because they consider it as like it's structurally feasible for a woman to leave her house and live with her husband, wherein the children will be carrying on the descent from the father side. So इसमें कोई confusion नहीं हो रहा, nobody is losing an important kin, and that's why they consider it like it's a normal way of woman moving. But in case of matrilineal, if the woman moves, she takes away the children who will be passing on the descent, and if she does not move, the most important family member who is supposed to take care of the family, that woman's brother will have to move, and that creates a kind of puzzle or ambiguous situation for the men in a matrilineal society, and this is what Audrey Richards calls as matrilineal puzzle. ये समझ में आ गया? This right then. Matrilineal puzzle idea was given by Audrey Richards. Audrey Richards. It is an idea associated with. It is an idea associated with structural functionalism. It is an idea associated with structural functionalism. Richards was puzzled by. Richards was puzzled by the position of men. The position of men in matrilineal societies. In matrilineal societies. Next paragraph. In the study of kinship. In the study of kinship and matrilineal versus patrilineal systems. In the study of kinship and matrilineal versus patrilineal systems, a basic assumption is that the family unit essentially consists of father, mother, and children. Father, mother, and children. A closely linked assumption is that one sex is dominant and other is weaker. One sex is dominant and other is weaker. Next point. Richards focused on issue of exogamous marriages. Exogamous marriages. In matrilineal society, men marry women from other matrilinealities or matrilineages, and thus the father do not belongs to same lineage as the children born from the marriage. Next point. In matrilineal, if the mother leaves her own group, to join that of her husband, comma, her matrikins have to engage or create a contract to keep control of the children. The brothers must divide authority. With the husband who is living elsewhere. Second, next point. If on the other hand, the woman remains with her parents, and her husband joins her there, comma, she and her children remain under control of her family, but her brothers are lost to the group. Since they marry elsewhere. Hence they are separated from the village. Where they have the rights of succession. Okay. Next point. This is what Richards calls matrilineal puzzle. The men are torn between their roles as fathers and as mother's brother and as mother's brother. In contrast, there is no such contradiction in a patrilineal. There is no contradiction in patrilineal kinship, where the father had authority, over his children, both as their father and as their lineage elder. Both as their father and as their lineage elder. Patrilineal lineage elder will be mother's brother. Okay. Women's position within patrilineal groups. Women's position within patrilineal group was given much less consideration. Because they are thought to integrate more easily. With their husband's kin. Shedding their attachments to their own patrilineages. The last topic, complementary filiation. Hardly 2-3 minutes. ठीक है. अरे यार खत्म करना है आज तो मैं लैंग्वेज भी शुरू करेंगे. चलो ठीक है, कोई नहीं. So complementary filiation. Here, this complementary filiation is a term that was introduced by Mayor Ports. So while stating the Society of Palancy in Ghana, so Ports says that there is a kind of relationship. Means the society may be patriarchal, the society may be patrilineal or matrilineal, but in both the cases, the ground reality is same. That means the child will always maintain a relationship from mother's relative as well as father's relative. So it will be matrilineal. But if you remember, the Mayor Ports was the one who kind of created a distinction between filiation and descent. So he says that filiation can, in a patriarchal society, a patrilineal society, filiation is from both the parents, both mother and father gives the filiation. And while the jural relationship is coming from descent, that is the legal, political succession, economic succession, all these comes from descent. That is, authority comes from descent. But filiation, both sides important. And in order to maintain or create that bond, the relationship on both the sides will be maintained. And it's not necessarily means you are inheriting some authority or economic property from your father's side. But that doesn't mean filiation doesn't give you anything. Filiation also gives you right to certain successions, certain property that you might be inheriting from your mama side. Okay. So हमारे उधर कई सारे cases होते हैं जहाँ पे somebody might have inherited a lot of property from nani side, basically maternal grandmother, when there is no mama. Okay, that is called as, I'm just forgetting that name. Huh? Sorry? नहीं. ना से कुछ कहा जाता है. Nawasa. Yes. So that is something that is inherited from the nani side. When there is no heir to means if there is only single daughter, in that case most of the people they will inherit that property and that will be passed on. So it's not necessary that only the descent will be giving you political authority or some economic succession rights, but sometimes filiation also provides you a lot of economic succession rights. And in this case, that helps us to maintain the relationship on both the sides. Means what Force is trying to say that the ground reality mein both matrilineal and patrilineal function same. That an individual will have equal connection with the relatives in both the sides. This is what is called as complementary filiation. Just like this. Complementary filiation was introduced by Mayor Ports. It refers to the fact that in societies with unilineal descent groups, people recognize kinship links. With relatives who do not belong to their own descent group. In societies with patrilineal descent, individuals will have important socially defined links with members of mother's family and vice versa. Next point. This is because complementary filiation gives them a feeling of individuality and independence, as all the members of same descent group might have different ties of complementary filiation. Next point. Ports pointed out that individuals inherit different types of property along the lines of complementary filiation. Individuals inherit different types of property along the lines of complementary filiation. Last line. Ports argued that existence of groups at the bottom was always similar and involved recognition of complementary role from both the parents. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much. अच्छा एक चीज और लास्ट चीज आई वाज थिंकिंग कि अगर यूनिट 2 के साथ यूनिट 7 भी हो जाए क्योंकि 28 2 है यहाँ पर, so 7 इज अ वेरी स्मॉल यूनिट. तो ये तो आपने बड़ा एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकली रिलेवेंट स्टेटमेंट बोल दी. ओके, मींस इट्स अ कल्चरली रिलेटिव टर्म, सबका स्मॉल बट लेट्स फिक्स इट कि यूनिट 2 एंड यूनिट 7 विल बी देयर इफ यू डोंट वांट अदर यूनिट टू कम. ठीक है, मतलब या तो पूरा सोशल कल्चर करते हैं और यूनिट 2 एंड 7. देखो व्हाई आई एम सेइंग अरे यार बहुत कंफ्यूज हो जाती हो तुम लोग. हाँ? अब टेस्ट के लिए तैयारी करो यार, और प्रीवियस जो भी चैप्टर्स पढ़े उसके कर लेंगे. ज़्यादा सही है बिकॉज़ यू विल गेट एक चीज़ मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप लोग एक बार 250 नंबर का पेपर अटेम्प्ट करो. ओके, एक फुल प्रोजेक्ट फील तो ले लो कि 250 नंबर का पेपर अटेम्प्ट करने में कैसा लगता है. अभी कितने टाइम मिनी टेस्ट देते रहोगे, छोटे-छोटे टेस्ट. तो एक फुल पेपर 250 मार्क्स 3 आवर्स. ठीक है, तो पूरा सोशल कल्चर यूनिट है 2 3 4 5 6 7 सॉरी 6 2 3 4 5 6